I want to get to it because so backdrop for the people that's coming in from my page. So one, if you are, yes, I'm like blocked from doing like IG lives on this page and the official Black Guns Matter page. And I could have done it from the Mr. Maj Toure backup page, but I don't think it would have the same level of reach. First and foremost, today's your born day. Happy born day.
Thank you.
I thought that this live was very important, and I kind of want to ask some more of those harsh questions. I think John Crump did a good job of addressing some of those issues. And I want to be clear that people understand that I'm a nuanced and objective dude. You and I have had conversations about things that, one of the conversations that comes to mind is the conversation we had offline about Section 230.
Oh, yeah, with censorship.
Right. And to me, the conversation was not about should Twitter have the right to remove anybody off of their page. It's don't hide behind government protections and bullshit like you're doing it for safety when in reality you're just being biased. Just say, we don't fuck with you right-wingers or whatever you want to call people, and just we don't want you on our fucking platform, and then don't hide behind the government. And I think that this nuanced conversation is kind of similar. I posted a video talking about this overall thing, and me being an objective person, I don't get a license for anything, nothing. I got a driver's license because the person that I was dating a few years ago said, you have to get a driver's license. I've driven without a driver's license for most of my life. Okay. So I'm very open about not complying. Private sales exist. I'm a safe and responsible gun owner. I am going to shoot the shit out of anybody and deal with whatever comes with it. I'm going to shoot anybody that's a threat to life, and whatever comes with the cases that I catch, I got bail money. You know what I'm saying? My legend will grow if I catch a gun case and say, fuck y'all the whole way. It will. So I just want to give that understanding. And I also want to explain that I also don't rag on people that choose to not potentially operate as a criminal. Like, technically, everything that I'm doing is criminal.
Sure. Well, I think but you're really upfront about that, right? And like I always say, like, I'm all about civil disobedience. What I see you doing is peaceful civil disobedience. You're not trying to storm the government. You weren't there on January 6th calling for to hang Mike Pence. You're just doing your thing. And when you and I first worked together at that Black Guns Matter event, you invited me to down in Atlanta. You heard me. I'm telling you, I don't care. And I say this all the time. Like, stop saying law-abiding gun owner. Law-abiding gun owner isn't a thing. That is some kind of, I don't know what it is, but it's not the right thing to be saying. If all gun laws are unconstitutional, if all gun laws are an infringement, if we're fighting to repeal unfair and unrighteous gun laws, the idea that law-abiding gun owner is how we should be talking about responsible gun owners is bullshit. Yeah. And the idea that, you've heard me say this 100 times, I don't care how you got your gun. I don't care where you carry your gun. I don't care if you have the license for your gun. I don't care what part, whether you live in the mountains or you live in the urban environment. If you're carrying a gun to defend yourself and you go home and you have kids in the house, I want you to put it in a safe. I want you to lock it up. I want you to take it apart. I want those kids not to be able to get to the gun. So that's responsible gun ownership, whether you're legal or not, right? So, like somebody in the comments right now is like, well, is Rob all about civil disobedience? What I said about the magazines is if you take a 20-round magazine and you hide it under your bed and you hope your ex-girlfriend doesn't call the police and say, oh, he's got magazines under his bed, that's not civil disobedience. That's just trying to be sneaky. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying don't call it civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is when you walk up to the gun range. Like, for example, I'll be in New York tomorrow. I'm not going to ask people how many rounds their magazines hold. I'm not going to ask them how many. I'm going to use percentage. Load your magazines full. I'm going to say load your magazines 50% for this drill. Load your magazines 40 or 60% for this drill. I don't ask them where their magazines came from. I don't check their IDs. I don't check to see. I mean, Masad Ayub, for years, you couldn't take one of his classes unless you had a concealed carry permit or you had like a letter from the police chief or your preacher or something saying you were a person of good background or whatever. I don't do that. You come to my class, come to my class. If you act like an ass in my class, I'll send you home. right? If you talk about taking over the government with violent force and that's why you're there, I'm probably going to ask you to chill out. And if you won't chill out, I'm probably going to send you home. But if you show up to do what you're doing, I'm not checking your ID. I'm not looking for your CCW permit. If we're in California, I'm not asking you where your mags came from. And people don't get that because I can put on a suit and sit down and have a conversation with somebody from the other side. Doesn't mean I'm out here like giving away shit.
This is where I have to be very critical of you. So I give an example, and I'm not comparing you to Colin Kaepernick. When Colin Kaepernick first gave his presentation of why he was taking a knee, right? Bill Burr, who's one of my favorite comedians, did a joke on this in like Paper Tiger, right? He was like, he explained it. He said, this is not about disrespect for the police. This is not about, you know, such and such. This is about bringing attention. I spoke to a combat vet that told me sitting down is more disrespectful than taking a knee. I'm taking a knee to bring attention to these things that are happening. And now, sidebar, I do think that media overplayed what was happening for their own agenda, right? But he explained this very thoroughly. And the first thing that happened was in the joke where Bill Burr was like, before he could even finish it, people were like, my fucking brother died in Iraq. I fucking dare you. Like, and he's like, no, dude. I'm not saying your brother's not in Iraq. I'm saying that this is what, blah, 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 blah. Now, that first breakdown of when Colin Kaepernick explained what he was doing and why, it was perfect. It was like 4 minutes. Then he stopped talking. When he stopped talking, media hijacked the narrative. Media made it like this guy doesn't give a fuck about America. This guy and Colin Kaepernick or his handlers didn't advise him. He did things like wearing like the pig socks, right?
Right.
From a PR standpoint, it didn't go over well. Now, why I'm saying this is comparative. Where I'm critical of you, Rob, is you understand your objective. You understand who you're explaining to in long format, because you and I will have conversations for hours. In long format, like if you did a Joe Rogan podcast, you could explain that thoroughly. What happens sometimes is you know what you know in your head and you type it out and you go, well, I've already said this in context in written format a bunch of times. And then someone like me that's paying attention to the whole fucking article goes like, no, he's saying compare this to this, and if you want to do it this way. Then what happens sometimes is when you write, you'll get pull quoted out. And I think that's what happened. Now, some of the things I just wouldn't even say. Like, I'm never going to say, right, comply with any of that shit. I'll say if you want to fucking comply, and I'm not saying you haven't said also if you want to comply, you can. Right? But what happens is, like Colin Kaepernick, you don't repeatedly say the whole thing every time, and then the people that may dislike you then pull the pull quote.
Right.
And then you got to reverse engineer and explain what you've already explained. It's like Trump having to say that the media said the whole time he's not denouncing white supremacy. And I'm like, bro, I remember the motherfucker denouncing David Duke like in like 98. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So in that sense,
well, he denounced assault weapons in 98 too, though. So we got to be careful. But right. But I mean, I see you do the same thing, right? How many times do you have to say, like, you barely ever put up a post that doesn't say read the whole caption, because you know what people are going to do. So you're in the same boat, man. So I hear the criticism, but I know it's because you recognize it. Right. Yeah. You're a long format guy too. You're nuanced. You are a critical thinker. And that's why I really appreciate the video you did the other day. Right. And you know, it's funny because of course you and Tony Simon did what he did yesterday. And people are like, oh, look, you're losing friends left and right. I'm like, stop. Like, literally, just for people on my channel that are watching, like, Maj was actually literally the first person that reached out to me after that hit piece came out from Williams. And I hadn't even seen it. You're like, oh, your phone's going to blow up, man. And this is, you know, paraphrasing, but this is bullshit. I'm going to help you get in front of this because you're a nuanced motherfucker and these guys aren't getting it. And this guy's tearing you up. And I appreciate you doing that because, you know, you actually set my perspective real early. Like I said, I before even knowing that thing existed, you helped me understand the perspective, right? Where things were being pulled, and then being used and characterized against me. And again, by the daggers were out, right? By then, by Tuesday, it's like, oh, everybody who ever said anything, or anybody who ever said anything bad about anybody, ever did anything to offend, now everybody's coming out, right? And it's like, you know, now there's shit I did in like middle school. Somebody's posting on Facebook like, oh yeah, Rob was mean to me on the playground one time too, so you better not like him.
Where do you think the area of criticism for you, where do you think you could improve in explaining this nuance in a better way? Like, from your perspective, and I'm not saying, I personally know, and again, unless you're a federal agent that's like really good at deception and all that other shit.
So good.
This is one of the conversations that we had earlier when I was like, yo, I'm talking like one of our first conversations when I was like, yo, there's this thing hanging over me about like I'm convicted of statutory rape. It's complete bullshit. The paperwork says withdrawn, blah, blah, blah. And you was like, I don't care. If you're fucking lying, it'll come out, right?
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
care. Now, unless you're just like later on, it's like, oh, he was the feds. And I'm like, damn, y'all, I didn't know he was the fucking feds. Okay, cool, whatever, right?
Disclaimer established.
Right. Outside of that, do you think that, where do you see yourself as wrong, need for improvement, right, in regards to messaging? Because in longer conversations with you, I'll go, no, I see exactly what you're saying. Now again, I disagree. I don't think that side, unless they're defectors, I wouldn't call Dan Gross on the other side anymore. I just don't think he's on the other side. I think he was.
Sure,
and I
absolutely.
think that he isn't as far as me. It's like, I don't give a fuck about any of those rules, right? But at the same time, I wouldn't really categorize him. Like, I used to rob people for a long time. You can't categorize me as a robber anymore, right?
Right.
So where do you, again, my disagreement is, I don't think people that are creating and crafting legislation, I think they're a fucking lost cause, and I think that we're beyond diplomacy, but I admire people that still attempt it. I believe that America was built on violence, and violence will be the only thing that course corrects. That is my individual belief. That doesn't mean I'm advocating for it. I prefer diplomacy, but I'm not mad at choosing violence. With all of that being said, I disagree with any form of the background, whatever, right? But your approach, where do you think in that approach there's room for improvement, or you're like, no, this is the better way? What is your perspective of, is there an area that there's self-criticism, or where you're like, no, this approach is completely right?
It might be a little of both, right? Because I can absolutely see the, missteps and the mistakes in the sense of trying to recruit a bunch of, like, if that had been the move, if the move had been in my head, let's get a bunch of people behind this idea, right, of working with the other side or sitting down and having a conversation, then the play would have been very different. But this wasn't that move, right? This wasn't the run down the line, right? This was the throw the pass, and you know what? If we don't get the touchdown, that's fine. We'll get the ball back later, right? This was the big play. So, and this has been going on for a while. Like, when at some point, and somebody asked about Center for Gun Rights and Responsibilities, right? Which Dan Gross and I talked with a bunch of people about at SHOT Show last year, which was months after he came out at the Second Amendment rally as essentially like a defector, right? And saying, this is dumb. This isn't working. This whole policy push, this whole idea of assault weapon bans, like magazine capacity, this isn't how you end negative results around firearms.
Pause.
I'm going to go over here.
Pause. Before you finish that thought, do you think that people know that that's what he said? And that's his position?
Intellectually, here's the problem. Does most of the people in the comments here that are asked, like a couple people are asking about what's up with Dan Gross, can we trust him? Obviously, they don't know. So that's where I say, go listen to the speech, go listen to the interview he did with John Crump, listen to the interview he did with Cam Edwards, go do the research. Well, the problem is if you Google and you go, well, look, in 1997, while his brother was in a coma after being shot in a mass shooting event, he said only police officers should have handguns. Well, yeah, that's what he said in 1997. As you said, right? What happened in 1998? What were you doing in 1998? What was I doing in 1998? Well, I was doing gun rights stuff in 1998. What was I doing in 1988? Well, I was shooting and I didn't know any better, right? I was actually probably out in the wood. Well, 88, by 88, I lived in Georgia, but in 86, I was half a mile from here in a sand pit shooting as a 15-year-old with access to my own guns in New Jersey. So, you know, it is this idea that what we've said or done in the past is what we're doing now. We know better. Everybody knows better. And one of the things I've said, like with the Dan Gross situation is you can say in the comments as much as you want, they will never change. But here's a guy who literally has stood at the grounds of the U.S. Capitol with us and denounced the hypocrisy and disingenuine people in the gun control movement who really do want to take away our guns, right? As for saying they want gun safety. Yeah. So it's like that when you put all that into play, is that nuanced? No, it's pretty black and white to me. It's evolution. It's change. That's what we want. So how do we, in any genuine sense, say we want to change people's minds? That's what advocacy is. We want to change politicians' minds. That's what lobbying is. But then we don't allow for it to happen in one of the starkest, most clearest examples I can even think of in the firearms world, right? And I'm talking about on earth in the gun debate. Here is a guy who used to run Brady, who now says that a lot of those strategies are wrong. They're flawed. I see that they're wrong. I fought with people inside the community, and then I left the community because I gave up on even trying to get those people to change. But the point is, that's this percent, and that's this percent. So what about this percent? You represent this percent. Like, I can't even make the smallness of how many people are as overtly civilly disobedient and free as you with firearms, right? That picture that you posted, right? And we were talking yesterday about what picture to use to tease up the thing. The picture that you posted, I think that's the first public picture of you holding a gun, right? Yep. And that was the thing. For years, you wouldn't hold a gun. And I kept telling you, like, man, it's like creating more drama than it's worth. But then for you, that was, I think, a SHOT Show, right? Yes. And so here you are holding a gun I designed from Avidity Arms, and I got my arm around you, and I'm pointing at it like, ooh, because back then people were still talking like you were a prohibited person. Right. So here I am. So, and maybe you were, right? That's the whole point. Maybe you were, and I didn't care because I trusted you. And in that environment, we're going to do what we're going to do. And you were ready to kind of come out of the closet. And so let's move. And I didn't believe you were because I had seen the papers. So let's move forward. Right. And I think that's me standing with Dan on the other side. I didn't believe he was a double agent. Right. So take the picture of me and you. I don't care if he's really prohibited. I'm wrong if he is. And then picture of me and Dan. I don't care if he's a plant. I'm wrong if he is. But I trust both of you. And to me, you guys are like opposite ends in so many ways, but very, very, very similar, right? In philosophy, in Rob world philosophy of I'll put my arm around you if I believe you and I trust you. And I think you're moving in the right direction. So let me get back to your question, because where I'm wrong is I'm wrong in, I have a lot of back conversations, right? I told you that a lot of people who are leaders in the gun community, very established people in the gun community at gun rights organizations, read that article that Dan Gross and I posted at Ammoland before it was published. Some of them had input in it. Some of them had, you want to change this word, or hey, this makes sense. I understand what you mean, but this is going to land better. And in some cases, we took that advice, and in some cases, I had to say, yeah, I get it, but you have to remember, this isn't just for gun owners to read, right? This is for the, if Dan could get an op-ed in the New York Times, it's for them too. If I can get on a TED Talk and represent gun owners in that world, this is for them too. So the idea that the message is incredibly complex and isn't for any one group, that's what makes it hard. I mean, this is why so many gun rights organizations do just post memes that say shall not be infringed. Right? Because that's the way you fundraise in the gun rights community. No one on Capitol Hill is reading a meme that says shall not be infringed and changing their vote. No. But that's how you get the money in the gun community to be able to fight in Congress, to be able to lobby in Congress, and to be able to fight in the courts. So I get that. But that's not what I'm doing. I don't fight in the courts. I support the places that do. I just renewed my FPC membership, right, at $100, not $25. And I raise money for them, and I send people to donate money to them, and SAF. Right. And I support them because they fight hard in the courts. And there's a lot of places, especially at the state level, that fight hard to lobby to get people into Congress, and they do the politicking. I was in Georgia literally walking streets and knocking on doors to get Republicans elected into the Senate because I thought Republican control of the Senate was important for gun owners. And I'm not a Republican, and I'm not a Democrat. I'm independent. And what I think is we need to be smart in the way we do things, and that means complexity. And the fact that I got somebody, and again, I know this sounds flippant and disrespectful, but it might be because I don't respect the way you're doing it. The guy with the fake name and that hiding behind the hood in the comments that says I'm a traitor because I'm complex. you're really not my audience, man. I mean, you nailed it when you said maybe Rob's not talking to gun owners. Gun owners are already here. What the hell? Why would I try to advocate to gun owners to defend gun rights? There may be some that are soft on gun rights that I need to have a talk to. There may be some that are still using law-abiding citizen. I need to talk to them and get them to understand. It's not about, you can't pound the table and say all gun laws are unconstitutional and then celebrate law-abiding, right? Some of my critics in their articles, ironically, they're worried about whether or not people are following the laws while they're critiquing me for trying to make the laws better.
Look, the crazy shit is, so I do want to go back to where you think you're wrong, but the crazy shit is during the time when everybody was like, and I thought it was hilarious, that's why I kept letting it drag out. The paperwork says withdrawn on it.
Right.
Like a judge withdraws a case. It didn't go to, I could give more room if it went to trial by jury and I just beat because then people could go, well, maybe he just, whatever, the jury, he had a better lawyer. No, that's not what happened. The judge was like, get this shit out of here, right? The reason why I thought it was hilarious was you guys are saying shall not be infringed, and that's not a government given or taken away right. But the thought that I may be prohibited, why the fuck are we talking about prohibited in the first place?
Right.
We just said that this is not, that's what the Bill of Rights is about. It's about the government. Hey guys, if you get goofy in 100 years, remember this list of things government can't give you and government can't take away, right? So I thought that was hilarious. And I entertained certain shit for a while because I like being funny. Like I like laughing in my own head about shit.
Well, that's where I am right now. Like with Tony Simon yesterday, like Tony kept asking, like Tony went back and forth with like 3 or 4, like, is this okay? Is this funny? Is this good? The fuck Rob Pincus thing. That's his whole like, well, if you're mad at Rob, why don't you do something about it and donate to one of these organizations? Like I'm gonna meet with him later today and talk about some of this stuff that's going on in New Jersey. And absolutely, it's like that is funny. Like, and then so the problem is because I don't think 3 steps ahead sometimes in that direction because I don't worry about maybe the goofy stuff, as you would say, right? It's like now I get people that like haven't talked to me in 10 years in New Jersey, like, why is Tony Simon mad at you? Because they don't follow it all, right? They don't. So I had to post like, no, I'm in on it. Like it actually says in his, again, read the whole thing. It says Rob Pincus approves. Somebody in here is like, do you know who Reed Hendricks is?
No.
I don't either. Like he apparently did a video about me. He's trying to make me famous in his clique, I guess, because people keep posting. Somebody has posted a link, which doesn't work in the comments, but I got to figure out who this Reed guy is. If anybody knows this Reed guy, whoever he is, tell him to call me. Like I'm literally the most accessible human being in the gun community for the last 20 years. I sat in the room next door and dialed up bulletin board systems on a 300 baud modem in like 1984 talking about guns. So I've been talking about guns a lot longer than some of these fake name guys have been alive. That's okay, right? I want to hang out. I want to talk. I talked with Cody Wilson last night because people are all upset about something I said with 3D printing. And it's like, wait a minute. What I said was hypothesizing how the mainstream gun community, big manufacturers might be able to sell frames to 3D printers of their design, right? And yeah, using watermarks. Well, then I found out that talking about watermarks is this big verboten thing in the open source decentralized community. The thing is, I said it like 6 years ago, and like 6 years ago, sorry, six weeks ago. I said it like 6 weeks ago, and 6 weeks ago was no big deal because everybody was excited about the fact that I was talking about 3D printing, right? And like, oh, here's one of the old guys talking about 3D printing. But now people are all this drama. So right away it was, hey, Pincus said this, and he wants to take away freedom in the 3D printing world. It's like I didn't even know what that was.
I think those are the things that speak to where I think you're wrong sometimes. And so hip hop culture, right? The things that are accepted now have been forced upon a culture by corporatized media, right? So, but in reality, it was, what are your bars like? Can you actually fucking like rap? Like, can you rap? And now it's like, just make a hit single and you'll be rewarded by corporate America and you'll be highlighted as the thing, right? Some people, I get what you're saying. You're saying, let's make this thing mainstream before they can further demonize it.
Yes.
Right? Now, to me, I say Diddy was the best and worst thing for hip hop at the same time. He mainstreamed it, but at the same time, he watered it down. Right? Now, if you mainstream it and if it looks as if you're saying watermarks are the way, and if Cody Wilson is like, yo, the conversation is over, bro, this shit is out there, right? Some people could see, without the context, could see your statement as kind of fuck the freedom part of it. You're going, hey, let's not let this be demonized, in my view. Right? I think a better way of messaging there, I think that the biggest overall area where I disagree is the messaging in regards to how you can explain it and say, this is what I'm thinking. You guys tell me if this is wrong. And then you have some of those people tap in, right? So, for example, if I say, if you say, and I'm not telling you how you say it, I'm just saying as an outside looking in at the messaging, I would say, like I have 4 3D printers. I haven't even fucking took them out the box.
I know. Right? I keep telling you, open them up. I thought we'd do that this weekend, but no, you had to go south.
Right. The twist is, if some people want that to still remain underground, and if it looks as if it's being mainstream in order to track and serialize while still criminalizing the person that says, nah, I don't want to serialize shit. I don't want to watermark shit. I just want to do this shit over here. The middle ground, for lack of a better term, or maybe that's the best term, is let's make 3D printing. Let's get suburban moms 3D printing fucking like handicap canes for their elderly, right? To normalize the concept of 3D printing. But to your point, it'll be like, well, shit, if the industry, how can the industry get on board that has a bunch of money?
Right. Well, it's not just the money, though.
For them.
But understand, it's not just, this is kind of like the suicide question that John Crump asked me, right? He's like, well, why aren't you working against all suicide? And I'm like, look, if somebody wants to, if the government wants to come in and mandate that they have to be tall walls and guards around every railroad track so people don't jump in front of trains and commit suicide, I'm not that worried about it. Like, I'm not a train rights advocate. I'm worried about gun-involved suicide because I'm a gun rights advocate. So when it comes to the 3D printing, I don't care about suburban moms making canes or masks or whatever the hell they're going to make. And the idea that then they're 20-something, right, who still lives at home maybe or comes home in the summer, he can print out a gun if he wants to, because that still sounds like the gun is somehow sneaky. I want it to be the 3D mom. I want the suburban mom 3D printing her gun and going to her with her 20-something to the range and shooting. And that's a huge difference.
But that's a contradiction, though, Rob, because as pragmatic as you are on understanding in regards to dealing with we both know that is currently guns are packaged that sneaky, and some people are still in that mindset.
So I'm trying to change that. That's what I want to change. Yeah. And so here's the thing. I think that's part of it, right? Is if that's what I want to change, then that requires, right? Like NASGW, NSSF, it requires the big companies to get involved. And this is what, like, even in a conversation I'm having on Twitter right now, somebody's like, well, Brownell's selling Brownell's already sells part kits. Yeah, I know Brownell sells part kits. You know who doesn't sell part kits? Glock, Smith & Wesson, right? SIG. Well, SIG now sells the FCU, but then they also sell this other frame. What SIG doesn't do, they sell you the frames, they sell you the fire control unit, but what they don't do is have a downloadable file on their webpage that you can print your own, and maybe it's got a thumb shelf for right-handed. Then there's a left-hand version, it's got the thumb shelf for the left-handed person. They don't, the palm swell, the straight cut, whatever, the thin grip. They could have 50 different files on their website, and then the guy with the 3D printer can choose to go get Ivan's version, right? And he can get it off library.tv, or he can go, I paid to get in the Legio. This is one of the things. It's like, wait a minute. I paid $50 in Bitcoin to Legio, gave them my ID, answered a bunch of questions like I was applying for a home loan. And now I can go to DefCAD and download Ivan's files. And that's what I do. And then I print Ivan's files without serial numbers for my own private use. And I printed magazines that he's designed and frames that he's designed, had good conversations with him online. But now, because I also think it's possible that SIG might want to sell, and that the 3D printing community and the suburban mom type 3D printer might not want to go to library.tv. She might want to go to Glock and download a Glock 48 with a thumb shelf for a right-handed shooter, because that's what she is. But like a lot of women, she has long fingers, so she wants a little bit of a swell in the back, so it's a little bit more of a curved grip. She can download that file, and yeah, of course, Glock or SIG or Smith & Wesson are going to want to control their intellectual property and control their investment. That doesn't mean that he has to put watermarks on his shit. I've said over and over again. I've been working for the last 6 weeks with a group trying to get the final pieces of this file, which essentially takes my gun design, the PD-10 from Avidity Arms. It uses Glock parts instead of the proprietary PD-10 parts, and put that out and give it for free to the 3D printing community and say, hey, I think this is cool. Enjoy this. Tell me if you like it. Give me some feedback. So the idea that now all of a sudden you take me thinking out loud in a 45-minute or 55-minute video for 30 seconds and saying, maybe this is a way. And I said we, and that's being attacked because people don't understand I have a manufacturing company. So I said we, Avidity Arms, as an example of a manufacturer, traditional manufacturer, might put marks on a gun to sell the gun to that one individual customer. This is how it works. If I wanted to give you a gun, if I wanted to print a gun and give it to you, I could do that. But I would have to do it as Avidity Arms, which means I have to put the marks on it and serial numbers on it under my FFL, my manufacturer's FFL. And then I would have to send it to a dealer in Pennsylvania, and you would have to take delivery of it from the dealer in Pennsylvania. Nobody out there who's 3D printing guns that isn't a manufacturer can do. They can't even give their kids a gun. Now, do they? Can they? I don't care. But they can't do it overtly, and that means you can't do it as the NSSF or NASGW or anybody else in the gun community.
So gun community can't, and they're bound by the restrictions that currently exist in that matrix.
Which we want to break down.
And explaining that concept of the matrix that exists, and you're not going to fucking get Glock. Glock doesn't even Glock is secret about the same fucking gun for 30 years. Like you know what I'm saying?
But you understand the myth. The goal is zero gun control laws, and the goal is to get Glock and Smith & Wesson and SIG and all those. I mean, and I've said here's a lower bar. A lower bar is getting them to go with the kit builds, right? So imagine Smith & Wesson licenses the latest design of the M&P 2.0 to Polymer 80, and Polymer 80 comes up with a frame kit that is the latest generation Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. Now they're selling the frame kit. Who's going to sell the parts kit? Well, Smith & Wesson should be selling slides, barrels, springs, all the lower parts. They should be selling that for gun makers. But right now, nobody really wants to touch gun makers except the part suppliers like Brownells that have been doing it for 50 years, but they've been doing it like for some guy that they think of as like making his hunting rifle more accurate. Well, now guess what? Now it's guys in their basement printing out pistols and putting pistol parts together. They know that. They're supporting it. They're sponsors of the gun makers match, right? But we need to take it up a notch and make it even more mainstream. That's what I'm thinking is the best thing to do. But that doesn't. But the problem is that some of these guys, they really want it. They want it to be edgy, and I think that's one of the problems, right? They want it to be kind of edgy cool. And if it's edgy cool,
but you can't blame them though, because
no, I don't.
Right.
I get it, but you got. But sometimes things go mainstream and it's good. I'm sure there's somebody that got mad that hip hop got popular.
I think that people got mad that hip hop got popular when it became watered down and a commercialized thing. When it came from the control of the people, I think that's why the backlash happens, because in that regard. So one, you got Nuanced. The people don't read the whole thing. They don't watch the whole video. They don't get the layers, right? And then on top of that, the reality is, we have had infringements, and outside of the infringements that currently exist, right? Nobody wants to go to jail. Nobody wants to go to jail. Like now,
it's too easy. If you want to go to jail, it's pretty easy. Go, go.
Right now, right? To me, I'm from the school of Malcolm X's statement of the price of freedom is death. I didn't expect to be alive this long, so it's like everything else above from here is like, fucking A, it's a win, right? However, the people that see the infringements also may not see, as licenses, which are infringements, as licenses to carry have went up over the last 20 years, violent crime has went down, right?
Right.
There's also a feeling of, man, we are constantly under attack. Your perspective and what I'm understanding is, well, if we make these things more mainstream, some people will choose to fucking like serialize shit. You can choose in your private life, if you want to be public about it or not, you can choose to go, yeah, I don't want to fucking buy it from Glock. I want to fucking get it from Cody and the boys. You know what I'm saying? I want to get it from fucking Ivan and the guys. You know what I'm saying? But I get the reason for the defense, because the perception based on the lack of nuance and them pull quotes, Rob, you gotta word your shit better at some points. You're like fucking, like, again, every 6 to 8 months, somebody's gonna put up that paperwork about me catching that case.
Yeah.
Every single time for a few interviews, I have to repeat that whole fucking met her in the 21 and over nightclub, never slept with her, didn't want to pay her. I have to do that.
My favorite part of that story is where the dad comes and like testifies on your behalf.
Right. The dad is like, yeah, my daughter's like a piece of shit. Like, if you need me to come to court for you, I will. I have to explain that whole fucking thing. Where you, and outside of the fact that you and I are you're more of an asshole than I am. So that's a part of it. And when I say asshole, I mean, like, if I don't go to an event because fucking I didn't tell anybody that I was banned from 2 airlines, right? And if I can't make the event, they go, man, you don't care about Black Lives Matter 757. And I'm like, nah, bro, like, that's not what the fuck happened. Anytime that I don't repeat that entire story, I'm an asshole to that person. Then 6 to 8 months later, when the story comes out again about Maj was fucking raping, you know, young people, like that false story, I have an obligation at this point to explain that whole story out through time, through repetitive nature, through understanding that some of these guys do not want to hear the actual truth because they've identified you as the asshole. You sometimes just don't. And then what happens is, it's like, because you're like, dude, like, I already fucking, it's in the article, read it, right?
Right.
The problem is now you're charged with the responsibility every single time of explaining that shit every single time, and you just don't. And then because you're actually, and this is all my perspective, right? Tell me when I'm wrong, where I'm wrong. Because you speak in a manner that is very politician-y, right? Because you're actively and openly saying, hey guys, I'm trying to reach people that are kind of in the middle ground so we can't look as scary. I started like actually doing my hair and trimming my beard and like fucking putting respectable clothes on here lately because I look fucking scary with a big bushy bit to some people with my hair not done. And then I'm talking about like, yeah, I'm not getting a license for shit, right? PR-wise, which matters pragmatically, I have to start like saying spiritual stuff and putting on clothes and looking cute for women, right? That's a part of it. I think that when I don't, I'm not more palpable. I want to start leading into urban I don't want to talk to conservative media really anymore. I have to talk to urban media, right? I'm doing these media outlets. I did it with, you know, the Lupe and Roy show, and these are urban platforms. They value you looking like urban. Okay, I gotta fucking like not wear the same sweatsuit for 3 fucking days in a row, right? That's what comes with it. I think in that regard, I see where you're taken out of context, even in the areas where I completely disagree with the approach.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So here's the other part too. It's like, who did the video? Trey, Ghost Tactical. He did a video playing off of Tony's thing, and he was like, yeah, you know, fuck Rob for teaching people, fuck Rob for taking 30 years of his life and getting involved in the Second Amendment, all that kind of facetiously, right? And one of the things that he said was, at the end, was kind of like, look, at some point, and this is, I know this is impossible, I'm gonna say it out loud, and as I'm saying it, I realize, at some point you got to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, and you got to trust, like, let it play out to some extent, right? And I know that nobody's going to do that, especially somebody who just met me, who doesn't know me from anybody, and he just came on Instagram, and then somebody, like this Reed guy, who I don't know, who some people were explaining he used to work with Edgar, he's saying, oh, and maybe it's somebody I met, and Reed, if we've met, I'm sorry, I apologize, but all I'm getting is Reed badmouth you, and he's right, and I like Reed, and I hate you, so Reed, reach out to me if you can. And so for the person that doesn't know me to see me doing something and then hear from somebody they trust, Rob's a bad guy, I get the hate. Then the question, to your point, is how much time am I going to spend trying to unhate that, right? And here's my problem is that, like I said, a lot of people in the gun community have read that before it was published. A lot of people have read it and sent me private messages, people who are leaders and influencers, and they get it, but they don't want to take the heat. So part of it is, and I say this out loud because it's important, I think, for you for the people that you just set this up for to understand, for your audience. If I'm getting 35 messages a day from leaders in the gun community saying, hey man, how you holding up? Like, this is going to blow over. We get it. You're doing great work. You know, I don't want to do it that way, but somebody has to. Thank you. And then I'm getting 300 no-name accounts saying, you know, you're a cuck, you're a redcoat, and putting up memes of me blowing Schumer or something. Like, where am I getting my energy from? You know, I'm getting my energy from the guy that runs the organization. I'm not getting my energy from the guy that might give me an extra like. But if you're already to the point of making memes of me as like the guy from which was the Mel Gibson movie, not the Braveheart one, the other, Patriot. If you're already putting me as the guy that like sold out his town in Patriot, like you're so far. How much energy am I going to put into? I don't even know your name. You won't even tell. Last night I got literally. I made a couple of screenshots. I got a 45-minute string of crank calls last night. Right. So no caller ID. I answer it. This is Rob. Is this the Rob that's an anti-gunner? And like, who is this? You don't need to know who this is. Hang up. So then for like 45, 50 minutes, I'm getting this no caller ID, no caller ID over and over and over again. Like, I mean, that is some high school shit, man. And yet, how much energy am I going to put into like tracking that guy down and changing his mind?
But you do know that your nuanced approach, again, Kaepernick, at the moment that he stopped messaging fully,
right?
You are not. It's art. You put it out there. When you put it out there and that art becomes critiqued, now the responsibility or not to say, hey, let me re-explain this fully. And if you don't, every single time there's gonna be that. If I that entire time when I wasn't defending myself from, I was like, bro, like I remember telling Fred Watkins, I said, yo, bro, he was like, yo, Maj, why don't you defend yourself? I saw the paperwork. Your fucking criminal background is public record.
Yep.
It's not like some sneaky federal agent got to have this level of clearance to see the shit. You can spend like $20 and get my whole file. That's not hard, right? And I'm like, bro, they don't care about the actual truth. They do not give a fuck. Now, at a certain point, I went, okay, but if you go into these rooms and want to continue to be, you know, that person that may have a position may have received that false messaging from somebody else. If I don't have something in position more regularly to defeat that, I'm now complicit in the bullshit, because as soon as I opened my mouth and then somebody went, yeah, fuck this guy, he's a rapist. From now on, I'm in that box. And that's the area where I give you the most pushback, because it is annoying. But how more annoying is it than fighting the gun rights battle for 30 years? So
here's the question, right? Where am I going to spend the next 5 years? Like I get not so much anymore, but I have people who really genuinely friends, people in the community. Rob, I think, you know, you're going to alienate your audience, right? And this goes back to something you said. Who is Rob's audience? Because let me assure you in the comments there, I don't need to tell you in the comments. I don't need to tell you, but you want me talking to a whole bunch of other people that don't get you and don't get me and don't get gun owners and don't get responsible gun ownership without government oversight. That's who I'm talking to today, right? So my main audience, if you see me talking about a new holster or you see me talking about trigger press, you're my audience. That's Personal Defense Network. That's Combat Focus Shooting. That's ICE Training Company. That's the Kevin Dixie Train and Learn event in St. Louis we're going to be doing Memorial Day weekend. That's what that is. Right. But when I take that hat off and I put on my Second Amendment advocacy hat, I'm not talking to the gun community. And our community is so used to being talked to by gun rights advocates because it's about money. How much? I have a fundraiser going on right now for Second Amendment organization. I've been the executive vice president of Second Amendment organization for 2.5 years. This is the first time I've ever done a fundraiser as my birthday fundraiser for Second Amendment organization. You go, somebody do the work, put in 30 seconds, do the Google. I tell people to go donate to SAF and FPC whenever people say, because everybody knows about the NRA reform thing, I'm not giving money to NRA anymore, who should I give money to? I don't say me, right? And I don't get paid by 2AO anyway. I don't even say my organization. I say Walk Talk America. I've done a few fundraisers for Walk Talk America a lot, but that's Mike Sedini's. I'm on the board there. I do a lot of work there for free, right? But the idea that I'm people, goes down a lot. Like your guy Phoenix, he says this all the time. I was making money. He just wants to make money. I don't make any money doing advocacy. You generate revenue for Black Guns Matter directly and overtly, and you sell merch and you take in donations, and I've given you donations and I've bought your merch and I've sent people over there to do it. And there's people that say, oh, Maj is all about the money. Maj is all about the money. Well, the money lets you do the work. I have other people raising the money for these organizations, other people paying for the website, paying for a logo design, paying for the stage at 2A rally, whatever, right? And in some cases, I chip in too. But my money doesn't come from advocacy. So the idea that my audience for gun rights advocacy is inside the gun community, that's just dumb shit. Why would I be advocating inside the gun community? Now, why do people think that? Because GOA, FPC, SAF, NRA, to do what they do, they need money. So they have to talk to the gun community to get the money. I don't need the money from the gun community to do what I do, because I do what I do for free. Me getting on a Zoom call with a research center that has ghost guns, quote unquote, completely wrong, and spending hours of my life over the last month trying to get them to understand what's going on with individual gun making and the differences between manufacturing and gun making and individuals, and what's legal and what's not legal, and what's scary, which is almost nothing, and what isn't scary, which is almost everything. You know, having those conversations, nobody pays me to do that. I do that because I think it's important. And you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall, right? It's like that. Except you don't like me because I do it a different way. And
you know who I liken you to? Beast from X-Men. In the movie, Beast worked. He was played by Kelsey Grammer, right? Which I thought was fucking hilarious in and of itself. But in the X-Men movies, Beast worked with the White House, right? Now, I'm not, because the rumor is, oh, Rob's vying for a position with the Biden administration. Maybe he is, y'all. I don't give a fuck. I don't care, right? Look, if you get it with the Biden administration, please make the bag heavy and fucking donate some money. I don't give a shit, right? I'm
unaware of any. I have said many times, if I get invited to a meeting, I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to have that meeting. I'll go have that meeting because I'll have a meeting with anybody. I don't care, right? Like I've talked to the UN. I'll go talk to anybody. The idea, I've taught for the UN. The idea that you can't have that meeting is silly. So if I'm walking into the White House to have that meeting and I happen to do some of this, that might be for everybody who says, don't go have that meeting because I'm not have that meeting.
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm looking for a job.
Here's the likening. Beast was very articulate, and they felt the humans, right? There's all of these mutants with all of these extra firepower and skills and fucking things. Magneto exists, right? And the regular people that are anti-mutant are afraid of Magneto. Partially, Magneto's how he is because you motherfuckers have been attacking since I was younger. You fuckers have been attacking me, and don't make me fucking crush your entire life because I have that power, right? That's how the anti-gun or neutral ground of I don't know about guns, but right? They look at me. I'm Wolverine. I will fuck you up. I don't care about any of these rules. Just leave me alone. I want to smoke a cigar and kind of drive a truck and just do my thing, right? You're like Beast that has respect for Wolverine, understand what Wolverine actually is and what Wolverine is not. So that person is like, hey guys, you guys should communicate with him because he understands Wolverine. Now, I agree with that. And like I said in the video, I agree with that up until that leans into more compromise. The problem is the messaging, and some of our guys on our side have done that. They've packaged the pull quote to make themselves look like the purist, and or they didn't actually read the whole fucking thing and try to get the objective understanding. I listen to understand where someone is coming from so I can go, no, I fuck with that part, or I disagree with that part, or you're all the way right, or you're all the way fucking wrong, right? So you're likening in me to Beast, where he's talking to he has a position in the state, right? And I can call Beast and be like, what the fuck is going on over there, bro? What do you mean they want to shoot people with needles and people can come take the shot and remove their fucking mutant abilities? Fuck no. Now, if you're or if it's perceived as, yo, that vaccine, if you want to remove your powers, that's okay. You better expect to get a whole bunch of fucking calls from these guys with fucking superpowers, right? As long as you're operating in genuine good faith, I'm going to go, like, so many people are like, yo, why the fuck do you fuck with Rob? I believe, and could be wrong, but I believe that he's operating in good faith, even in the areas that I disagree. I completely disagree with any fucking background check. Fucking Edgar from Guns for Everyone, in his video, I felt like he was talking about me when he was like, I know maybe like 2 or 3 people that don't fuck with like any of those like rules and shit. Right. And he's like, I'm not going to say their name, but I'm like, yo.
Say my name.
Say my name. Because to me, it's like, again, Dr. King, George Washington, Thomas Paine, fucking those people that we will never know about that fought in the Revolutionary War with their fucking contradictions, did things that created, and me as a pro-black person, I'm like, yeah, it was American. They created this concept of freedom, but I'm also going to say, yeah, but these motherfuckers own like elders, like fuck out of here.
Right.
I think that position is good to me up until the point where the messaging is blatantly without nuance and there's no room for, I can understand what you're saying. If the message is, guys, come on now, let's be fair and let's just agree that we need more. And I don't think, and you can, I don't think.
Well, let me jump in, because first of all, I appreciate you changing it to like a nerdy reference instead of the hip hop thing, because I really didn't get any of those references. So that was good. The second thing is, let's not let this kind of thing, I know it's going to end at some point, they cut us off, right? Let's not let this thing end without me like throwing out the idea that I would love to say, let's get rid of all the gun control. Let's get rid of the background checks. I've talked a lot about concealed carry, right? I remember when shall issue laws were amazing. They were huge wins, right? So when I lived in this house, you couldn't carry a gun in Texas. You couldn't carry a gun legally in Alaska. Right? Yeah. Open carry. You couldn't conceal it. You couldn't carry a concealed gun. You couldn't carry any kind of handgun in Texas. Vermont, where I could first carry legally, was the only constitutional carry state when I moved there in 1990. Nobody was running around the country saying constitutional carry, permitless carry. We were just happy to get any kind of carry in Texas. We were happy to get shall issue with mandatory training, mandatory background checks, renewals, fees, all that shit. We were thrilled to get it. And it took a long time to get that. And over 10, 15, 20, 30 years, now look at us. Now no one in their right mind would be advocating for mandatory training and renewals and fees and background checks. It's all permitless carry. I feel like that's what we can do with background checks. If everybody go read the thing at Truth About Guns, where I wrote out what are the, so what am I actually talking about? Because all the first article did was set it up for a conversation. So all the exemptions, get rid of interstate transfer prohibitions. And Dan Gross agrees. Dan Gross is down with he doesn't understand either. If your brother lives in Wisconsin, why can't you send him a gun? If some guy that is already gone through a background check, already has the legal right to carry in their state, why can't a dealer sell him a gun in another state? This is ridiculous. It's a federal firearms license. It actually says FFL. It's a federal firearms license. Why can't we go across state lines? So the proposal is all about more freedom. The proposal is about exempting certain areas and saying you can't touch this, shall not be infringed, kind of what the Second Amendment did. But people didn't give it a chance. They haven't looked at the details of it. They just went right to, sort of the daggers out. Okay, got it. Nuanced, maybe bad delivery. Maybe I'm talking to too many people at once. I'm not making the message special for the gun community. But again, after 20-something, 30-something years, it's like, okay, I think my bona fides are established here. Let me go do some work outside of the community now, right? So like somebody, now here's a good thing. Somebody, SMJ, SJM, somebody in the comments, he's like, oh, there's no culture war. He's doing a pull quote. He's taking, oh, there's no culture war. And then he talks about wearing a MAGA hat in Portland. SJM, if you think a MAGA hat has anything to do with gun rights, you're the one who's wrong. You are wrong. MAGA hat and gun rights are not connected. They have nothing to do with one another. Abortion rights and gun rights have nothing to do with one another. Immigration law and gun rights have vaccines, masks, COVID. Get it out of your head. You are creating the myth that we were addressing. There is no 51% of America that thinks that it's okay that kids die in school shootings. There's no culture war there. We all agree we need to make that stop.
I think where there is a culture war, where people can feel there's a culture war, is there's an attack on where they do group them together is the attack on people to express themselves freely and exercise their natural given rights.
I understand. So that's a thing, but that goes both ways, right? Because look at me. I'm getting cancel cultured in the gun community that supposedly doesn't like cancel culture because of this identity war culture thing. So come on, SJM, you're telling me I'm wrong. You're trying to conflate my saying there isn't a culture war over protecting kids from negative outcomes involving firearms to there's no culture war over left and right politics. What I'm saying is, as I've said over and over and over again, take the gun thing out of that. You want to go fight about Republican, Democrat, go do that. I want to talk about reducing negative outcomes of firearms, and that should not be and is not political. It's not ideological. It's just about reducing negative outcomes. You're making it, SJM, you're making it part of the culture war.
This is the perfect reason of why I'm saying the messaging in the long format conversation is. So, for example, if the pull quote genuinely is, there is no culture war, right? Then people go, these fucking leftists, Twitter, are fucking attacking us. What do you mean? Your nuance is, no. I'm saying there's no culture war in regards to safety and protecting children.
Right. Which is but that's what's in the, that's, you know, it's like if I'm sitting here talking to you about whiskey, right? And I say, you know what? I don't really like a lot of, I like caramelization. I like a little sugary thing. I don't really like a lot of harsh tannins from the wood, right? And then all they say is Rob doesn't like tannins. And then it's like, well, and they see me drinking a big heavy cab and they're like, well, Rob, you said you didn't like tannins. Well, I was talking about whiskey. I wasn't talking about cab. I wasn't talking about big heavy red wine. But you're trying to take that and put it over there. Like, stop. Just stop.
Right.
That's just dumb. And for me to waste a bunch of time on that, come on.
You can't waste a bunch of time, but every time that you say something, you damn near you're now. When Malcolm X came back from Mecca, and you're not Malcolm X, so because somebody will say Maj Toure compares Rob to fucking Malcolm X, right?
I didn't have glasses.
Right. What'll happen is, Malcolm X came back from Mecca, and every time he started or the vast majority of times he started a presentation, he said, I have to clarify what my position is now. I'm not a racist. I don't believe in any form of racism in any way. I'm a Muslim. I believe in Islam. I believe in the brotherhood of all men and women, right? Then he says, however, there's issues that are specific to the black community. Whites can help, but we have to solve this problem. Malcolm made it a very pointed, because of the aggressive tone that he had when he was with the Nation of Islam. My brother, you are now charged because of how you've been taken out of context, how you've been for some time, like you said, like, I'm not fucking repeating this. I already said it. Go fucking read the article, right? I think what would help is if you took that of, hey guys, just to make sure we are understanding, this is what my position is. You're not the audience per se for this one. In this audience, I'm having a conversation with people that are kind of like in the middle ground, right? And so that logic that I shouldn't have to say it, it's like when we're at classes, when I tell people, communicate with officers and give them the perceived position of power during that moment. Right. I shouldn't have to. Well, fucker, I shouldn't be here. I should be with Rihanna somewhere right the fuck now. I shouldn't be doing this, but here we are. I think that you now are in the position where you kind of gotta be repetitive on your messaging more so, and I think it would cut down. And I'm not talking about the guys that have just like, fuck Rob, fuck what he's talking about, fuck Maj, I just really like you, so I can't say fuck you, but I don't like that you like him, right? Not those guys. But I think it would help tremendously if you got repetitively boring, and I think it would. And I think even in this fucking like live, there's people in here that's saying whatever they're saying. Cool, right? Whatever. However, I think in long format and you saying these things nuanced, I think a lot more people are going to understand the layers or streams of thought that you're having, not only where we are pragmatically, but hey, we're here right now. We're a far cry from shall not be infringed, but I think we could go over there too, which is kind of like future, but still back to shall not be infringed. Right. And I think that gets lost. And before we get cut off, please tell everybody, I think everybody should follow Rob. I think you should read the articles. I think you should understand and try to listen with a more open-minded thought process. But please tell people where they can support the work, where they can read on some of the things that you've been saying for 20, 30 years at this point, and how they can support if they choose to support. And if you're like, fuck Rob Pincus, I'm going to end this, you know, I'm going to screen grab this as well. If you're like, fuck Rob Pincus, I'm going to show you how you can say fuck Rob Pincus and donate to some hardcore fuck compromise organizations. So there's something for those folks there too.
Yeah, and again, you know, obviously with the work you do, which I've supported with time, effort, energy, and you know, my love. I mean, just get it done, right? Like Black Guns Matter. There's a good place. Tony Simon, he's in the comments, right? He's out there doing a fundraiser for a whole bunch of different organizations, but he's the only person on Patreon that I have like every month he gets some money. So the Tony Simon's work, right? Diversity 2A for everyone. The diversity shoot, that's huge. Aiming for the truth, the stuff Kevin Dixie does. My stuff, again, Walk the Talk America, I think is that was 2 years ago. That was the most controversial thing I was involved in. Mike Sedini just sent me a text message. I can check it out. He founded that organization to deal with the intersection of guns and mental health. Right away, people are like, why are you even bringing up guns? Just talk about mental health. Well, again, I'm a gun rights advocate. Mike's a gun industry guy for the last 30 years, right? Like, so that's what we do. 2AO.org. Anybody has any question about what my stances are? And I've been saying this for years now. Gunrights.info, right? That's my domain. There's a reason I pay for that domain, because I want people searching for gun rights on the internet to get there and read the position statements. And there's over 60 of them that are very clear. There are complex ones, right? So we either say we support this, we don't support this, or this is a complex issue and you might actually have to read 2 paragraphs. But they are, I believe, clear and concise explanations of my positions through Second Amendment organizations. So 2AO.org, you can go over there. And then honestly, there's another website, ICEtraining.info. That's the ICE blog. That also then inherited the Valhalla Training Center blog, the Valhalla newsletter that started around 2004, I think. There is right there, there's 10 to 15 years of advocacy work, because I didn't used to have 2AO, right? I was invited into 2AO 2.5 years ago. Before that, I just did advocacy very much kind of, you know, here and there, kind of willy-nilly. And some of my political articles ended up coming out through the training company. So some of that's there. And at some point I did make like an archive and a hub. I get it. But you can use Google. Google is my archive. Just Rob Pincus magazine ban, Rob Pincus assault weapons ban, Rob Pincus background checks, right? I'd love to see no background checks. How we get there is the same way we got to permitless carry. We get there through responsible people carrying guns and proving that the Rand Corporation last year came out with a report that said mandatory training shows no valuable reduction in negative outcomes of firearms. So boom, what happens? We can now we can say, look, mandatory training has been going on for a long time in a lot of these states. And yet it has no impact because the training is incredibly low common denominator. You can't make it better because then there's a prohibitive cost and time factor to exercise a civil right. Delaware is trying to do that right now. So fuck mandatory training. As a trainer, people get surprised that I say that. I want people to get trained, but it's got to come from us. We got to have legitimate students seeking this stuff out. I remember when Arizona went when Arizona went permitless carry instead of shall issue, a bunch of instructors lost their minds. They thought they were going to lose their businesses and nobody was going to come get training. Well, how am I going to fill a classroom for my bullshit NRA basic pistol CCW course if the government doesn't tell people they have to do it, right? But what those guys don't have, they don't have 10 followers, so they don't get a bunch of heat for saying that out loud. No, I want the government to tell people they have to come take my training, right? Come on. So anyway, point being, gunrights.info is a good place to go. It's again, it seems disingenuous, but this isn't about the money. If you give 2AO more money, we're going to not need as many people to help us put on another 2A rally because we're going to have money sitting in the bank. Right? And that's fine. But we're not a membership organization for a reason. The reason we're not a membership organization is I watch what these guys that run membership organizations have to do. They have to compromise their own personal integrity and put out these stupid fucking memes like HR 127. HR 127 was never going anywhere. And all the fear mongering around HR 127 to fill the war chest, I understand it. They need to do the war chest filling so that when something really happens, they can fight against it. But HR 127 was never going anywhere. People go, Rob, what do you think about HR 127? It's a joke. Move on. Let's worry about real things. One of those real things is universal background checks. Universal background checks is the end of private transfers. The end of private transfers is the beginning of a gun registry. That's what we're trying to avoid. Right. And we can avoid that with literally, if I could say, we're not gonna talk about you because you're gonna do it how you want and do it openly. You're gonna like sell shit in this video probably in a minute. But me, right? Like if I'm gonna sell a gun as Avidity Arms, or I'm gonna sell a gun, if I want to give my daughter a gun in Tennessee right now, to do that openly as a Florida resident, I have to, if I want a picture of my daughter and I standing on the range, like I just gave her this gun, she loves it, which I do want to post that picture. I have to go through a dealer in Tennessee, so she's not committing a felony by taking delivery of a gun that I just dropped off on my way driving through Tennessee, right?
Right.
So I have to transfer it from another state to a dealer, and she has to take delivery of it. I would, under my proposal, I can just give her the gun openly and freely, no more interstate. And that means what? I can now transfer a gun to millions of people. So forget about what I'm doing with 3D printing, because I'm also making guns and guns and guns. And I'm encouraging other people to get involved in making guns and guns and guns that never have a track record. I can take the gun that has a track record from an FFL that I buy or transfer, and I can give it to my friends and family, literally millions of people who can legally carry guns.
Yeah.
They aren't strangers to me. They are vetted people that I trust to be responsible with it. I can give it to them, and that gun goes off the radar, and it's off the radar forever. That's what we're trying to do. And is that nuanced? Maybe. Right. So, and again, I'm just bad at asking for money. Right. But if you want to support the effort, 2AO.org, share the message. That's how you support the effort. When somebody says, fuck Rob Pincus, ask them why. Don't even tell them no. Just say why. And when they say, well, so-and-so said, or Rob supports universal background checks, then you can just tell them they're wrong. And if they repeat it 5 times, like some of the guys in the comment, eventually you just block them and you move on. You know?
Simple. So save this live. I want to make sure that I screen grab it. I want to get off before they cut us off. Save it, follow, support y'all. We out.
Cool, man. Thanks.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Peace.